Hey guys, this is Roberto again with Innovative Sports Training. In the next few weeks and months, I'll be doing a series of what I call video blogs that are going to be very informative to your health and fitness. But for today, we're going to do a presentation called Robbing Peter to Pay Paul. And moving on to the next slide here. I found this kind of humorous here. Here's a couple cartoon characters or guys asking for change, and he robs another guy to give the guy change. I thought that was kind of funny. But the title of this blog is a fairly popular phrase that describes the illogical act of stealing from one source to pay another source. And I'm using this to draw an analogy as to what's happening with our bodies and how it can be devastating to our short-term and long-term health. Us humans are very visual-driven species, more than any other species on Earth. And what would be one's response if you could turn your body inside out and actually see what's going on inside of your body? Your organs such as your liver, your intestines, your stomach, your heart, your gallbladder, your lungs, your pancreas. I think most of us would be pretty grossed out and disgusted by what we would see. There's a lot of stuff going on there that we cannot see. And I think there's a saying that goes along with that states it's out of sight, out of mind. But trust me, the body knows what's going on. And all of it begins with stress and how we balance that stress. It is not stress that kills us. It is our reaction to it that kills us. Very famous scientist, endocrinologist, Dr. Hans Selye. Causes of stress: chemical, food sensitivity, physical hard labor, emotional, mental, cold or hot climates. Let's go back to chemical. You could be working in a nail salon. You could be working in a job, maybe cleaning homes or cleaning factories. Maybe working in a factory and where there's chemicals being used. You could be using too many plastic containers in your house, which can cause some estrogen imbalances, which are basically causes of stress. Food sensitivities. You're eating foods that are not relative to your metabolic type. If you're more of a carbohydrate person, you're eating too much protein and fat, it can cause issues. If you're more of a fat protein type, if you're eating too many carbs, it can cause issues. Physical hard labor. If you're working a job and not getting enough rest, where you're working construction or a lot of heavy lifting, it's going to cause stress. Working out too much, believe it or not. And I'm a trainer, certified strength and conditioning trainer. If you work out too much, it'll stress your body out. Emotional. If you're going through a divorce, if you had a death in the family of a loved one, mental stress, maybe cramming for that exam, for the big final. Hot or cold climates. I'm sure if you took someone from the North Pole and stuck them around the equator, they probably wouldn't like it, and vice versa. If you took somebody from the equator and stuck them in the North Pole, they wouldn't like it, and I wouldn't either because I hate cold weather. But nonetheless, temperature can be stressful on the body in extreme temperatures. Now, let's go into stress just a little bit more, but not too much in the weeds. There's a small gland that sits on top of your kidneys. It's called your adrenal glands. They produce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. Without these glands, without these hormones being produced, the stress hormone cortisol, we would cease to exist. And probably, no probably about it, we would die because they help to fight off stresses of the body. Practically everything we do in our lives is somewhat stressful. Now, there's good stress, which is called eustress, and there's bad stress, which is called distress. Getting out of bed in the morning can be stressful. During a 24-hour cycle, cortisol is released by the adrenals to handle various stressful type of scenarios. However, if it's too much of a load where it becomes chronic, a 24/7 type of scenario, it becomes distressful, and cortisol will pull from other sources within the body to compensate for the loads that it cannot handle. The body is a pretty smart organism, ladies and gentlemen. It will always lean towards survival to try to keep you alive by compensating. And during that compensation sensation. It may not be the most comfortable. It may not be the most ideal situation, but it will keep you alive. For example, if you fall on your elbow, and let's say you crack the elbow or something, well, your elbow is going to swell up. You might put a cast on there. You can still survive, but it's going to be very inconvenient and very uncomfortable. Now, stress is a definite factor in several biochemical components of how the body functions. One of these is called the metabolic steroidal pathway, which is really the crux of this presentation. Now, I'm going to take a step-by-step approach to this. This is just one of the first phases of the steroidal pathway. I'm not going to put it all on the screen yet because it would be too confusing. Cholesterol. Now, cholesterol is a fat, as we all know. Sometimes it gets a bad name and really doesn't deserve a bad name because cholesterol is needed by the body for survival. But what feeds into cholesterol are LDLs, HDLs, acetylcholine, and B vitamins. Now, all these four areas feed into cholesterol, which is an important precursor to the next phase, which is pregnenolone. Pregnenolone is considered the master hormone of the steroid hormone pathway. It is made in the adrenals and synthesized by cholesterol, dietary fats, B vitamins, and circulating LDLs. Now, another important player in this pathway is dehydroepiandrosterone, better known as DHEA. You can go to any health food store and buy DHEA, which I don't necessarily recommend, which counters the functions of cortisol in that it is an extremely powerful anabolic hormone that promotes tissue building and is a precursor to estrogen and testosterone production. And we're going to get into those in just a few seconds here, more detail on that. The second part of the puzzle I'm going to add here, there we go. Pregnenolone and DHEA, there it is. Cholesterol is a huge factor in how strong and efficient pregnenolone and DHEA is. Without these components, ladies and gentlemen, you will cease to exist. The next phase we're going to add is testosterone and estrogen, pretty well-known factors today. Testosterone is the predominant anabolic male hormone important for tissue development and sex drive for men and women, made by the male parts of the gonads of men and female ovaries of women. Ovaries in very small amounts, obviously, because testosterone is primarily a male hormone. Now, estrogen is a threefold component consisting of estrone, estradiol, and estriol made by the ovaries in women. Balanced estrogen is crucial for emotional stability and for prominent feminine features. And by the way, men also have small amounts of estrogen, which is made by the adrenals and somewhat by the gonads. Okay, the third cluster here we add to the puzzle. There it is. Testosterone, estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Once again, with the mother load coming from cholesterol and pregnenolone. You see how important this is all stacking up and working here. Progesterone and aldosterone. You probably never heard of aldosterone. We'll go into that just a little bit. Progesterone is an antagonist to estrogen in that it promotes muscular tone and fat utilization. In addition, progesterone is very important for female ovulation. Aldosterone is crucial for regulating blood pressure and controls the amount of sodium in the blood and the amount of potassium released in the urine, and also very, very important for blood pressure and heart health, by the way. Cortisol. Let's talk about it in a little bit more detail here. A major stress hormone made by the adrenal glands. It's a glucocorticoid hormone that converts sugar, fat, and protein to usable energy in mainly emergency situations. A 24/7 chronic type of stress will signal cortisol to shunt energy from pregnenolone and progesterone. Now, this is what a normal steroidal pathway looks like, with everything added to it. Notice over here is progesterone. Here is cortisol, which is in red. Cortisone, which is another after byproduct of cortisol. And here is aldosterone right there, yes. So let's quickly review this. Again, cholesterol, which is fed by B vitamins, LDLs, acetylcholine, HDLs. It makes pregnenolone, which is a precursor to DHEA, which is a precursor to testosterone, which is a precursor, DHEA is a precursor to estrone, estradiol, and estriol. Now, it also, going back to pregnenolone, is a precursor to, that's right, progesterone, cortisol, cortisone, and aldosterone. All of these things, ladies and gentlemen, are important for us to survive. In particular, this side of the equation over here. This side, which is testosterone, DHEA, and estrogen, basically, is more performance-oriented. This side is more survival-oriented. In times of need and stress, in chronic stress, by the way, the brain will always tell cortisol to kick in big time, which will take precedence over the performance side. Now here is Pregnenolone Steal. Remember the shunting that was mentioned just a few seconds ago? Well, here's how it works. Once again, everything looks pretty normal up here. Pregnenolone, DHEA, testosterone, feeding down into estrone, estradiol, and estriol. However, on this side, we have a problem, Houston. The brain is telling cortisol to steal from pregnenolone and steal from progesterone. Now, what does that do to this whole equation here? It depletes the performance hormones in here, testosterone, estrone, estradiol, and estriol. It also will deplete progesterone. It also will deplete aldosterone. Aldosterone, important. Progesterone, important. All these over here are important. DHEA, testosterone, and estrogen. Let's move on to the next slide here. An unhealthy steroidal pathway that is overexposed to stress. Pregnenolone production is low due to insufficient sources of cholesterol and fats. So in other words, if you're having problems with your health, if you're having problems losing weight, if you're having problems with your gut, it could be you're not getting enough fat in your diet. DHEA production is not adequate due to pregnenolone being insufficient. Once again, maybe you're not getting enough fat in your diet. Testosterone and estrogen levels are very low due to DHEA levels. Progesterone levels are low due to insufficient pregnenolone levels. Cortisol is not being adequately fed from low progesterone, thus cortisol will shunt the already low source of pregnenolone in order to keep the body alive and handling stress. There are many dysfunctions that can occur as a result of pregnenolone stealing, which we will go into now. Implications of pregnenolone steal. Suppresses the anabolic side of the hormonal pathway. Testosterone, estrogen, and DHEA. Inhibits thyroidal functions. That's a biggie. It does not allow T4 to convert to T3. Have you heard of hypothyroidism? A problem. The thyroid is a major component to metabolic processes. In fact, if the thyroid gets jacked up, it can really mess up your metabolism, period. Weakens the immune system. Contributes to insulin resistance, which I'll be talking about in future video blogs here. Insulin resistance is a huge, huge problem today in American society. Over 50% of Americans today are insulin resistant and knocking on the door of type 2 diabetes. And it could be because of stressing the adrenals. Weakens the digestive processes of the small intestines. You got bad cortisol, you got weak adrenals, chances are you're going to have bad digestion, which leads to the next issue, irritable bowel disease and leaky gut. Once again, that's going to be a future discussion. Bowel diseases and leaky gut, irritable bowel and leaky gut situations. Contributes to estrogen dominance. Now, I'm kind of contradicting myself in a way here, but the body's very, very smart in figuring things out. Estrogen can become too low as a result of the depletion, but progesterone, as I said, counters estrogen, and progesterone will deplete at a faster rate than estrogen. Thus, you can become estrogen dominant because you need the progesterone in order to balance estrogen. And estrogen dominance has been found predominant in many people with cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer. Also, muscle wasting and atrophy. When cortisol levels get out of whack, cortisol itself is a catabolic hormone, which leads to muscle wasting and atrophy. Stubborn belly fat gain. You just can't lose that gut. It could be related to your adrenals. Brain fog. That's a biggie. Believe it or not, it will affect your brain. There's a stuff called BDNF, which is made by the brain. It's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Another future video blog. That is basically growth hormone for the brain. And cortisol will certainly deplete that, which can lead to brain fog and Alzheimer's, and lack of serotonin and melatonin and dopamine, which can lead to a lot of major issues. Now, I put this chart in here. I'm not trying to confuse anybody. I'm going to go through this step by step very slowly. The hypothalamus is the brain, basically. It is a part of the brain. Now, the hypothalamus communicates with many parts of the endocrine system. In fact, it really is the godfather of the endocrine system. The first axis is the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. Hypothalamus, pituitary, which is a part of the hypothalamus, and it communicates with, here it is, the adrenals. Notice your adrenals also feed into the thyroid there. The next part, the hypothalamus pituitary gonad ovary axis, feeds into the thyroid. The next part, the ovary gonad adrenal thyroidal axis. All these are on the same network here, ladies and gentlemen, on the same network. So you see how important the adrenals are. Extremely important. When you have dysfunctional adrenals, it can lead to some very serious complications. You need to get them checked out, which we'll go into in a minute here. What's next? Become a detective and learn what's going on with your body. That's important. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Your health is not your trainer's responsibility. It is not your spouse's responsibility. It is not your medical doctor's responsibility, your dietitian. It is your responsibility. Learn as much as you can from credible sources, of course. Now, Innovative Sports Training, that's me, Roberto Parker, offers a functional physical evaluation to evaluate physical movement patterns, strength testing, and stability, mobility. I also offer, Innovative Sports Training offers lab screenings to evaluate cortisol rhythms, food sensitivities, gut health, and pathogens, which are basically if your body's taking up any bugs inside your bodily real estate there. But that's what you need to do next, guys. Become a detective and learn as much as possible. Become a detective, just not a dieter. In fact, I don't believe in diets. I believe in changing your lifestyle, learning as much as you can, and peeling away the layers to find out what's going on with your body. Don't address the symptom. Address the core root problem. Here is my contact information if you need to get in touch with me. Roberto Parker, Innovative Sports Training, rwpsports@yahoo.com. My web address is knowyourfoodtype.webs.com, istworkshops.webs.com. Phone number is 816-405-7703. And if you call me and you listen to this video blog, I'll give you a special sign-up offer that you cannot refuse. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been fun. Please check out my websites. Have a great evening, a great day tomorrow, and God bless.